Hustle culture, tech culture, they're funny. Even 10 years ago, a little bit of respect, at least, was reserved for the CEOs and entrepreneurs of Silicon Valley, who seemingly spun magic out of ones and zeros to build the future. Go back far enough, you get visionaries like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, who at one time represented the greatest rivalry in tech.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
But times have changed. Revelation after revelation after revelation about how truly terrible the tech world is, not just to their own people, but to their customers. It seems like all this talk about changing the world is just talk. And still, we're nice to them with movie after movie where people wake up one day and realize they turned into something they never intended. It turns out most of these people set out on ego projects. Changing the world came after. I've been thinking lately about Elizabeth Holmes, who ran a biotech company that turned out to be completely fraudulent. What's really odd is her personal brand. She spoke in this affected, low tone for some reason.
It's wonderful to be here.
And very specifically modeled her outfits on Steve Jobs. She ran a company working on healthcare research. It's like if Anthony Fauci showed up to work wearing a turtleneck sweatshirt and jeans. Silicon Valley has some weird homogenizing effect. You're not a healthcare lab or a search engine or a car manufacturer, you're a tech company. Isn't it kind of weird that all of these Silicon Valley companies have gone from doing one thing to having their fingers in a bunch of different pots? That's the point, to get as much control as you possibly can. Nobody showcases the moral rot of so-called innovation more than Elon Musk. Way before he turned into the alt-right figure he is now, helping Russia terrorize Ukraine and platforming far-right extremists, he was hailed as a Silicon Valley messianic figure. Most people first really saw him in Iron Man 2, where he was portrayed like a real-life Tony Stark.
Mr. Musk, how are you?
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much.
Just like Tony Stark, he was heralded on the covers of Popular Mechanics and Wired as the Great Redeemer, who would bring about a new age propelled by a visionary approach to technology the world had never seen. Does that sound like somebody else?
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Before Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley, somebody had to invent it. And the nascent king of what would grow into the Silicon Valley tech culture was Steve Jobs. The similarities between Elon Musk and Steve Jobs are massive. Both leaders of companies with revolutionary products, both touted as change-making icons in the industry, both cast in the media as disruptive outsiders. Crucially, neither were or are engineers. So why does Steve Jobs avoid the ire that Elon Musk draws? For some reason, he seemed genuinely motivated by a product vision that would lead people to live better, more fulfilled lives.
I sat in a fucking garage with Wozniak and invented the future because artists lead and hacks ask for a show of hands.
When he returned to a failing Apple Inc. in the 90s, an older and wiser leader, he led the company to create dozens of revolutionary products.
And we are calling it iPhone.
All of which had massive, long-lasting impact on the culture. Their negative impacts are unintended consequences, unlike the tech companies of today where immorality seems baked into the business model. In a phrase, Steve Jobs got results, and we liked them. Musk has had a lot less success. Sure, Tesla was the first genuine electric car company, and the success of SpaceX has helped usher in the private space race. Is that something we really want? Musk has failed time after time to fulfill these promises. Teslas don't drive themselves. We haven't made it to Mars. His dreamy tech goals are laughable now. Musk, for the record, also took over leadership of a company in dire financial straits. But whereas Steve Jobs rejoined Apple, Musk took over Twitter in a hostile takeover because he was offended by wokeism. Musk fired hundreds of Twitter engineers and did his own code reviews, which echoes the hard decisions that Steve Jobs had to make about the almost bankrupt Apple Inc. of the 90s. But it's a poor imitation, reading more like a petulant bully forcing everyone to play by his rules. At least Steve Jobs knew to trust people who were smarter than him. America loves Steve Jobs even now because he gave results. His famous cult of personality is infuriating to his critics in large part because he was deliriously successful. I won't make a defense of his treatment of his family or employees, but you can't accuse him of running Apple simply for his ego. If he had one, it's because he knew what they had. He did what he set out to do. Can we say the same for Elon? He writes poetry about his ambitions, launches his car into Martian orbit, and makes rockets pointier because he saw it in a movie about a dictator. The one-time poster child of change is now the ultimate cautionary tale against drinking your own Kool-Aid. Musk's legacy is defined by his failure to live up to early promise. It may sound absurd, but the thing Jobs had that Musk can't imitate is perspective. Jobs grew up in a working-class Californian family. Musk is the child of an apartheid-era South African emerald mogul. Nothing exemplifies this perspective better than this email that Jobs sent to himself a year before his death. I grow little of the food I eat, and of the little I do grow, I did not breed or perfect the seeds. I do not make any of my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I did not conceive of or legislate. I do not enforce or adjudicate. I am moved by music I did not create myself. When I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I did not invent the transistor, the microprocessor, object-oriented programming, or most of the technology I work with. I love and admire my species, living and dead, and am totally dependent on them for my life and well-being. Sent from my iPad. Despite his success and achievements, Jobs never forgot he was one person. He never tricked himself into thinking he was entirely responsible for his success. Silicon Valley is full of people trying to be him, but they failed to acknowledge something Steve Jobs understood, if not exemplified: humanity. Elon Musk is no Steve Jobs. He can try, but the first king of hustle was too smart to fail for his own hype.